So it's a big weekend. It's the first of the big Christmas weekends when all of the movies that didn't come out this summer are seemingly coming out. You have Sherlock Holmes, Game of Shadows, and Mission Impossible, the other sequel that's in IMAX, and they're going head to head. No movies came out 2 weeks ago or a week ago for some reason, because movie companies have to make sure that their movies are like two horny elks in a field. There can only be one, and they have to smash each other's face in, because that's the games that they play with hundreds of millions of dollars. And then because they're going head to head, they have to schedule stuff like Young Adult and Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy for like the discerning people who are like, oh please, let's not go to see any of these two horny elk movies. Let's go see the smart, intelligent British thriller that will probably be pretty good, or Young Adult, the trendy hipster movie. What I want to talk about today is Sherlock Holmes, which we managed to see early and is everything that the first one was, and probably about 5 minutes more. It's stupendously long. It's over 2 hours long, and it doesn't really need to be. There's a whole bunch of nits that you can pick with this film. It's got a series of repetitive fight scenes where characters, including Sherlock, plan out the fight in their head before they actually do the fight. And that was cool the first time. We don't need like 12 minutes worth of it in the second film. There's plot details that are apparently vital in the actual course of the film, but don't hold up to any real scrutiny. The scrutiny that, you know, fans of mystery novels say the works of Arthur Conan Doyle writing about the brilliant detective Sherlock Holmes would be apt to pick apart. There's an annoying character deletion really early in the first act where somebody that you think, oh, I really like that person, it's too bad they're not in the movie anymore, occurs. And that feels like somebody's reaching into your wallet and sneaking money out of it. That being said, those are all nits, because the movie fundamentally is pretty entertaining and really well done. There's one scene in the middle, the trailer draws a bunch of shots from it, where they're running through a forest, and it lets director Guy Ritchie go totally crazy with all of his really cool camera tricks, including one that goes by so quickly that, you know, on one hand there's no real reason for it to be in the film other than it looks cool, where, you know, the bad guy's running through the forest and the camera's shooting him in profile, except the camera is locked to the orientation of his head somehow. It's like that snorri cam thing that they used originally in the Smashing Pumpkins video in 1979. If you've seen that, you know what I'm talking about, but it goes by so fast. It's just shot after shot after shot of super slow motion with frozen wood particles, and it's all really cool. But what makes it work fundamentally is Robert Downey Jr. And this is where I want to talk about, you know, what you should watch instead, and the idea of actors' salaries. This movie does not exist at all without Robert Downey Jr., and he's getting paid some, you know, obscene amount of money, $15 million, plus I'm sure a chunk of the back end to be in this movie. But realistically, and this is really hard to say, especially at a time when millions of people are occupying Wall Street because they have no money, he should be paid over $100 million. He should be paid maybe $200 million. Because this movie is going to make $500 million, say, if it does as much as the first one does, and at least half of that money is due to the talents of Robert Downey Jr. So what should you watch instead if you don't want to go to see all these guys battle? The other example, which people got totally freaked out about when it happened, was Arnold Schwarzenegger being in Terminator 2. It's the only other real example to the extent of which a movie depends on one actor. You know, originally in the Terminator, they were going to cast, you know, maybe Tom Selleck, O.J. Simpson as the Terminator. Obviously, none of those would have worked. And it was Arnie that made it work, and it was him that made the sequel work. And somebody did the math a little while ago and figured out that he got paid $15 million, and he only said 700 words of dialogue total, meaning he got paid $22,000 per word. Hasta la vista cost $80-some thousand just to get him to say that. But is it worth it? Obviously it's worth it. He probably should have been paid, you know, $150,000 per word, because what would they have done without him in that movie? It's only politeness that stops him from asking for $200 million. It's only politeness that stops him, Robert Downey Jr., from kind of pointing out that if I don't want to be in your sequel, there's not going to be a sequel, and you won't make $500 million. So why not pay me $150 million, whatever he's actually worth? And he actually is probably worth that, just the way Arnie was worth that for Terminator 2, which, you know, I know you've seen it a million times, but watch it instead, I guess.